The Minnesota Wild have made multiple moves as they have recently reacquired a player that they regret giving up. We're going to be breaking it down, going over this move, what this means for the Minnesota Wild as more moves have been made as well to clear up some space. We're going to be breaking that down as well as going over an absolutely insane report that just dropped a few hours ago for the Minnesota Wild to add to this team with Kirill Kaprizov locked up long term. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to break down in today's video, and if you do want to stay up to date with all of your Minnesota Wild news, be sure to hit the sub button. We're getting daily videos out here on the channel. You won't want to miss it, and with the regular season around the corner, we're going to have so much news coming as this season is going to be off to a hot start. So, like I said, hit the sub button if you haven't already and you're looking for all of your news. But let's get straight into it because heading into today, some more moves are made with training camp and preseason nearing the end to clear up a few moves and also keep a close eye on the waiver wire. And that's what the Minnesota Wild ended up doing. And today they have claimed Daemon Hunt off waivers from Columbus and been speculating since a possibility since Declan Chisholm was traded in June that even the light of Jonas Brodin's surgery. And this is what Michael Russo had to say on the idea. Let's not forget, Daemon Hunt was traded in a trade, of course, for David Jiricek, who we worked out the deal. Of course, Daemon Hunt, I shouldn't have said that we didn't want to regret giving him up, but he is a player that the Wild valued heavily. But you needed to get rid of a guy with some decent potential to get a guy like David Jiricek, but as the Columbus Blue Jackets were thinning out their roster, he was the 7th defenseman behind, the 8th defenseman behind 7 one-way deals, and he was the Blue Jackets' last cut. So the Minnesota Wild got quite lucky here being able to reacquire Daemon Hunt for absolutely nothing, which, of course, just ended up pretty much being David Jiricek for a package of picks, which at this point right now seems like a very good deal for this team. But Daemon Hunt back with the Minnesota Wild is something that I think this team has really been trying to do since he was traded. Find someone that fit that potential that Daemon Hunt brought to the team, and especially now with the set of moves that have been made from the Minnesota Wild, as well as what we see Michael Russo say here, the injuries, of course, to Jonas Brodin, and the plethora of injuries that we've seen in the past couple of years on this defense for the Wild. It just gives them another opportunity here with Daemon Hunt being a guy that they know, they trust, and is able to add into this defense here, really whenever they are looking for another defenseman to come in here on this NHL roster. We've really only seen a guy like Carson Lambos be the one that was cut here in this offseason at least, or this preseason, I should say, excuse me, that was capable of making a roster right now and being put in there, in my opinion. Of course, there are some others. May take a little bit more time, but of those groups, there wasn't too many. But now Daemon Hunt adds this back to the Minnesota Wild, giving them an extra piece here on the defensive side of things. I think is a very smart thing going forward, and especially when you're taking a look at the moves that were made when Jack Johnson was released from his PTO. There was questions there about whether or not he would actually start, whether or not they would bring someone up from the AHL or keep someone up for the time being until, we saw Brodin return or whatever the set of moves was made. But now Jack Johnson being released from his PTO, they've recalled defenseman Matt Kierstad from Iowa for the game tonight. And, of course, going in with Daemon Hunt, going on his kind of tenure so far with the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Minnesota Wild, kind of his NHL tenure, I guess we could say, he's been someone that has been very good. I think there's no doubt that the Wild are happy to get him back, and it definitely does suck. And we know the Blue Jackets are not happy to have him gone. And we have a big thing coming up now as well, that if he were to be sent down, he would likely be claimed once again. In this case, we kind of understand and know that the Blue Jackets would go and claim him. So it will be interesting to see what they do with this with him on the defense, whether or not we're going to keep him up, having them as a 7th defenseman. Whatever the plan is, I think there are a few options here, and especially with the way the defense is looking right now with Middleton, Boyum, and Jiricek, Faber, Spurgeon, and Bogosian. It's going to be an interesting start to the season depending on what these matchups are, because of course, Zeev has not been the best here in this preseason, but still lots of time. He's only 19 years old. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. David Jiricek has looked really good. Whether or not he will stay up here, we obviously hope that's going to be the case. Still yet to be determined, but it certainly seems like that will be the option. And Zach Bogosian, it's going to be interesting to see how he kind of fits in here with this lineup and see how things do go, especially at 35, him and Spurgeon, two of the older defensemen here on this team, but both are still very acceptable options here. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about Daemon Hunt. Obviously, it seems like a W in my book, at least from the fact that they had to give nothing up to get him, and it will be a big positive coming out of this anyways, for at least the start of the season up to probably, November, December, when this defense is getting back into their full form. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about that, especially heading into the season, how things have played out thus far in preseason and training camp on the defensive side of things. But things are getting crazier in the movement of markets and everything going on here, and especially heading into this year now, with Kirill Kaprizov locked up, the Wild have to prove to him that they are legit. They're going to be contenders over this 8-year period of when we have him under contract, and that is a long time, but things need to be proven to him very quickly. And this comes out from the 32 Thoughts, the podcast, Elliot Friedman, saying that Guerin told Kaprizov, despite the huge contract that they will still be adding, a manager told Friedman he wonders if the Wild will target Artemi Panarin if he does not re-sign with the New York Rangers. Both Panarin and Kaprizov have the same agent in Paul Theophanous. And we know how much of I'm going to say stingy, but how good Paul Theophanous is, I guess, on that side of things, is to his players, is to his representatives. So you know that Paul Theophanous is going to try and get the best for his team. The fact that he has this deal now done with Bill Guerin, the fact he's familiar with Bill Guerin and giving the Minnesota Wild the opportunity to let Kaprizov kind of negotiate what he did and get $17 million, there's no doubt in my mind that if we do not see Artemi Panarin re-sign in Minnesota, the Wild will be somewhere on that list near the top, knowing that they will have money to give out to Artemi Panarin. But this is actually insane. Seeing this right now and Artemi Panarin being linked to the Minnesota Wild is something that I never thought I would hear, but this proves that the Wild are all in now. Going with this, they're continuing to add. They know that they have the room to be able to still do it, whatever they want to do. There's plenty of room now with it actually going into it, and I think a big part of that, like I mentioned when we did sign Kaprizov, was that the fact that nobody on this team is making double digits except Kaprizov, and that's a big thing that a lot of teams really don't have the opportunity with. You see some teams with about 4, 5, 10+ million players that do not work. Having one player at 17 and a couple players at 9, 7, 8, and 9, I'm totally okay with that, especially the way that this gives the Wild the opportunity to go out and get guys like this, or at least have the opportunity to have their name into a hat like this. This is a major kind of point going forward for this Minnesota Wild team. And when you're looking at Artemi Panarin, I mean, last season on a very, very bad New York Rangers team, let's not forget that. 80 games, 89 points. Still first-line minutes, and going on 34 years old. He is at the bit of an older age right now, but he has shown absolutely zero signs of slowing down, and a 64% Corsi. He is still very, very solid on defense as well, which is quite an underrated part of his game, and not really anything that he's actually known for, but still a very important asset to his game. Now, going forward with the Minnesota Wild, next season we do head into $23 million in cap. Now, that does take into Kirill Kaprizov's $17 million contract, so having $23 million, that is quite a bit of room to make a move for a guy like Artemi Panarin, someone who is actually coming out here and trying to, earn another contract that is going to be somewhere in the range of where he is now. And at 11.2, I believe his contract is now, or something along the lines of that, upwards of $11 million, let's call it. He's making quite a bit of money, but as the kind of, the contract projections go about and how things really work out, he is set to be making actually less money. He's projected to sign by AP Analytics a 4 by $10.2 million deal. Now, that will lock up Artemi Panarin until he is about 38, 39, so he would be a bit older on that side, but when you go and take a look at the points he's produced over the past years, 120 2 seasons ago. Let's not forget that. Going down to 89 last year, he's a phenomenal player. Not necessarily the biggest goal scorer, except for that 120-point season where he got 49, but an absolute incredible playmaker he is. And if you put that on a line with Kirill Kaprizov, things will be going at an elite level. Now, this is still a lot of time to work with, of course, a full season's worth, but the fact that Artemi Panarin already is linked to the Minnesota Wild, and the fact that a big name like this is already put in comparison and adding to this offense, this is a very, very exciting thing for the Minnesota Wild, and I'm sure that Bill Guerin, this Wild team, is excited to have this report come out and have these names being thrown around in this mix of players to join the offense here and Kirill Kaprizov, knowing that they're going to be treating their players good on the contract side of things. So let me know what you think about that, because obviously this is right now, at this point in time, at, October 3rd, 2025, is a crazy thing to hear, but if we come down to, June 1st, July 1st next year, these reports are continuing to heat up before free agency, then on free agency, we're going to be in a very good spot, and I hope to come back to this video now in, a year's time, 3/4 of a year's time, and say that this sparked a whole set of Wild moves that we want to see, but we're going to only have to find out until then. But that's all I got in this one. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'll be keeping you updated with every single bit of Minnesota Wild news that does come out here from this team. Also, anything that will come out, it'll be right here on the channel daily. You won't want to miss it. We're going to have it all here for you guys. But like I said, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.